This is a short tutorial on how to search and sort cards in your existing BadgeBuilder database. There are some features that are available directly from the toolbar that allow you to manage your cards and find cards either in a very simple way or in a more sophisticated way. So let's talk about them very quickly. The first group that you come across really encompass these four buttons right here, and each one of them performs a particular operation. This one is extremely simple. If you don't have all of the databases currently selected in your database, or you've filtered for a specific card, you'd like to just take all the filtering off and just show all the cards in the database, just click this button and it will go and it will do exactly that. It will just refresh all of them and you'll see all of the cards in the database. Simple as that. The next feature is a quick badge, or our fast find. So let's go ahead and click on this button and you'll see some of the features that this has. This is by far the most popular way to search for records, because it has a lot of power, but it's also very, very simple to use. So let's just talk about some of the features. For example, the select all, select changed, or select unchanged. Select all actually does the same thing as the button we just talked about, so unlikely that you'd ever come in here to do that, but if you happen to, you can do that here. If a card's been marked as changed or marked as unchanged, that indicates whether it's been printed or not since the last time it was either created or the last time that it was changed. That would allow you to sort just or select just those cards that had changed or just the ones that had not changed. The next feature down, which is actually the default one, is the one that's going to be most popular, and that allows you to run a search on a particular field for particular information. So you'll see if we look in the field name here, we drop that box down. These are all the available fields in our database, and we can look for any particular piece of information that we want. So let's do 261. Now you'll see that there are also some buttons down here that allow you to make some tweaks as to how it is that the system will search. For instance, if it uses starts with as it is now, that would catch 261 and 2610 or 26100. If it's just contains, then that would say, okay, if 261 shows up anywhere in it, so if it was 42610 or 26100 or 00261, any of those where 261 was contained within the number, that would match. Ends with is just the opposite of starts with. If it was 52261, then that would match. Or we can be very precise and we can select exactly, and that would allow us to actually specify that that's precisely what we want to do, is to get that's just that very different piece. Now we don't care in this particular instance, so we'll just stay with starts with, and we'll go ahead and we could say OK. Before we do that, let's just talk very briefly about these two features. Select by template does exactly that. That would allow you to actually specify that you wanted to have all the cards that were on a particular card design in the database. That could be useful if you have various different card designs for, let's say, contractors or employees or custodial staff or any designation for different card designs that you might have. If you have a different card design, you just want to show those particular people. There's also the capability for you to specify fields that are in alarm or not in alarm. This is another feature that's sort of outside of the scope of what we're going to talk about here, but it basically describes the ability for you to say if a field has matched an expiration date beyond which you want to make note of it, that would put a field into an alarm state, and you can specify whether you want to see badges that have a field that's in the alarm state or those that don't. That's what that was. But let's go ahead and just go back up to our search for our number, and we can go ahead and we can say OK, and we do the search, and sure enough, we come up with a card. Here's Joseph O'Brien, and if we look, here's our number 261. So, simple as that. Anytime you want to do a very simple search, that would allow you to do it. Now let's turn off the searching, and just by pressing this button that we first talked about, and that brings back our first card, and now we have all the cards in this database selected. Let's move on to this next search capability, which is more capable than the previous one, but also has more complexity to it. And it's called the badge selection criteria, and you'll notice that the screen is quite a bit more sophisticated. The idea here is that this screen allows you to put multiple criteria together so that you can actually make some very sophisticated searches. So if you had a lot of badges and you wanted to say that you wanted all the people whose badge number was greater than 259, and you want that one. So let's say that's the first one, and then we want their department to be equal to, and I think we have a group in here called accounting, perhaps. Let's say we had a group called accounting. We could add that. And you'll see now that that has a toggle, and so we can actually switch this back and forth, and this changes the logic of it to say, I need badge numbers greater than 259 or department equal to accounting, or I need ones that are badge number greater than 259 and department equal to accounting. If you want to get even more sophisticated with your logic, you can actually invert the logic by saying this is now not greater than 259. You can do grouping. This almost gets into a programming level, so it's something that you want to think about only if you really need a very advanced search. But if you wanted to just do a more simple situation where you just wanted to meet both of those criteria, you would go ahead and make certain that they were both there, and then when you were done, you could go ahead and say OK. Last thing we'll say about this particular screen is that the stored criteria down here, if you have a fairly sophisticated search that you're going to be doing and you don't want to have to recreate it every time, you can save and load those particular criteria so that you can use them again and again without having to recreate them every time. So if we go ahead and say OK, we'll see now if we've matched anything in our database, and actually we haven't. And that's the last thing we'll talk about as far as that particular piece of things is concerned, and that is when you get a return of no records, you get two obvious pieces for that. The first one is that the card design comes up, but it doesn't have anything on it. That just shows a blank card. The other thing is that we can look down here at our numbers, and these numbers help us to indicate what we have in our database. So let's just talk about them very quickly. This first one is what card are we currently on? This number is how many cards did we select, or how many did we find, and this number is how many cards do we have total in our database. Well, we didn't find any cards, so we have 2 zeros. That indicates to me that we don't have any cards that matched our criteria, and we have 9 total. So our search didn't work out particularly well because we must not have met the requirements that matched anything particular. That's no problem. The easiest way to get back from that is just to select all the cards in our database again using that first button that we talked about. And there's Peter Morrow back on our card. Last thing that we're going to talk about in terms of searching is this, and sorting is actually the sort button, and that's going to be this button that says 1, 2, 3. If you click on that button, you'll see that you get a dialog up that allows you to do some ordering of things. Now, it may very well be that you would like to order your database by last name and then first name, or maybe by their badge number or by their employee ID. You can sort by as many fields as you wish. So the system right now is sorting by the badge number, then followed by the department, then the employee name, the employee number. And you can reverse them too, so that instead of an A to Z search, it's doing a Z to A search, or if it's a numeric search, rather than going from 0 to 100, it will go from 100 down to 0. And if you only have a small number of fields, then it also fills in what are called the system fields, BadgeBuilder informational fields that you can actually use. But in this case, let's just change the sorting so that the employee name is actually primary, and you'll see that shuffled down the ones below it. And the badge number, move that down to say number 4, and that's changed the employee number to 3. And we'll go ahead and we'll say OK. And when we do that, you'll notice that the card design that we're seeing on the screen changed, although the number that we're on right down is still number 1. And that's because based upon the sort criteria that we've specified, the name that's in there now is the first name that comes out in the database. The last thing that we can do as far as looking through is the most simple of searching, and that is a human visual search. And that's what we can do by using the buttons that are available right here. And these buttons allow us to move either singly through the database, one by one, either forward or back, or all the way to the end, or all the way to the beginning. And that's what these buttons are all about. And depending upon where you are in the database, if you're at the beginning, then obviously you can't go any further back. But if we move forward a card, you'll see now that all these buttons are available, and we can move further back, further through the database forward, or we can go back, or we can go right to the beginning, or we can go right to the end. So we have all of the capabilities to scroll through and just look through things manually. And that's all of the different ways that you can use BadgeBuilder to search and sort through your data.